2024 has been an awakening for me. There is one game that I have played a lot in 2024, and surprisingly, no, it's not a video game. It's Magic the Gathering. So much so. Look at all these pre-cons I got. This isn't even all of them, and this is all that I've gotten in a single year, and we'll get to this at another time. But Magic the Gathering has been something super interesting to me because it's not just something that you can go online and play with people online over Discord, over Spell Table, over something like that. But it's also an actual card game that you can go to an LGS or go and hang out with your friends and play at a real table and like play a game. And I feel like that's something that surprisingly we don't do as much as we used to. Board games, card games have kind of gone out the door in place of digital stuff, and this allows you to continue to have some fun in a wild and creative way. Now, most people, when they first start getting into Magic the Gathering, they're learning all the different keywords and learning all the different combos and playstyles and colors and how the colors match up together and what type of synergies do they have. No. My brain immediately went to, how can I make this game more complicated, more harder, but maybe more fun than it needed to be? One of the pre-con decks that I have is from the Dungeons and Dragons Avengers from the Forgotten Realm. It's the Dungeons pre-con, and that made me think about like all the universes beyond stuff. So we got like Baldur's Gate. We're coming out with SpongeBob in 2025. We got Final Fantasy in 2025. We have Fallout right now, which is our like next biggest one. We have Assassin's Creed that didn't get pre-cons, which is unfortunate, but we have all these different types of stuff. But what if we take game mechanics from those universes beyond and create new game modes within Magic? And I don't want it to be like a game mode that completely derails how Magic the Gathering works. A good example of this is like I have a Plane Chase or Arch Enemy style cards, which they changed the way Commanders played, but not too insanely. It's just something that adds a little bit of spice. So I wanted to create something that had a little bit of spice. I was inspired through Dungeons and Dragons because I know Dungeons and Dragons has the mechanic of wild magic, which is essentially a player can have access to wild magic where they can use up their spell to roll a dice. I don't know how big the dice roll is, but there's just a whole list of different things that can happen, and some are really good, some are really bad, and some just turn your character blue. Like, it's really, it really could be anything. So I wanted something like that, but for Magic the Gathering. So, introducing Wild Magic Commander, Wild Magic the Gathering. So essentially, what I wanted to do is I comprised a list of 100 different things that could happen within Magic the Gathering that I think would be funny, weird, quirky, cool. So the red represents everything bad, the green represents everything good, and the orange represents things that are just kind of quirky, that kind of go both ways, that could be helpful for you, could screw you over depending on what your board state is like. But there's 40 good, 27 both, and 33 bad. I kept a little more on the good side just because I want people to feel like they have a chance to gain something. And the both, I didn't want to do too much both because it would be, so we're going to peruse through it. You're going to see how crazy it gets sometimes. And then you definitely need some bad in there. So like one is like our big bad, which is lose half your life rounded up. Which, I mean, if you're in Commander and you roll this and you're at 40 life, boom, you're already down to 20 and everybody else is still at 40 if this is your turn 1. I should mention and explain this in advance. The way we play Wild Magic Commander is once per turn. You can choose when, but once per turn you have to roll something that goes to 100. So whether you go online and you use a Google number generator 1 through 100, or you have Dungeons and Dragons dice, or you have the Dungeons and Dragons set, which you have like the dice that say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, like the 10s, and then you have one D10, so 0 through 9. Use that, and whatever you roll, that's what you have to pick. But you have to do it once per turn. So when it is my turn, I upkeep, draw, and then I decide when I want to roll. Sometimes you might want to roll pre-combat because it might give you something that helps you during combat, or you might want to roll after combat because there are certain things that might mess up your combat. It all depends. It's all up to you. That's what's wild about it. So I'm just going to peruse through this document. I'm going to have a link in the description of the document. It's unlisted, it's shareable, so you can send it to other people that might be interested, or you can copy it and change things. We've changed this multiple times. I might continue to change this multiple times. But number 2 is funny because number 2 is reroll and double the result. So that could be really, really good because then you get double good, you can get double bad, or you can get a mixture of all in between. So imagine you roll and double result and then roll and then lose half your life rounded up. So then you would go from 40 to 20 and 20 to 10, or however you are at during the time of the game. Because like I said, you have to do this every turn for yourself. Every time it's your turn, you have to roll. So on your turn 8, you're going to have to roll, and you might be at 12 life and it's lose half your life, so then you're down to 6. Then we get a little series of good, which is destroy target artifact and opponent controls, just some removal. I have a couple of removal stuff in there. Creature you control gains a lifelink counter. That is a lot of the good. That 40 number is so inflated because a lot of the good is keyword souping your creatures. So you get to put a lifelink counter, you get to put a double strike counter, you get to put a hexproof counter, you get to put an indestructible counter. I am not going to go through every single one of these. So just so you know, there's probably like 20 in there. I'm going to skip them from now on. 5 is one of the both. I like talking about the boths because I think they're cool. So this is flip a coin. If it's heads, you gain 1 life, and you may, keyword may, flip again. If it's tails, you lose X life. X being how many times you flip the coin plus 2. So because you have to roll 1 time, if you land tails on the first time, you lose life. That's the downside. But besides that, if you keep flipping heads, you keep gaining life. And as long as you stop while you're ahead, then you don't ultimately lose life, which is good. Then we have reveal the top card of your library, cast this card without paying its mana cost. So some of these things are a lot better than others, I'll just say, because you could flip that over and you can get a land, or you could flip that over and get like a 12 Eldrazi creature. Like, you really don't know. I guess there is a downside to this because you could it is cast this card without paying its mana cost. It's not a may cast, so you might end up getting an instant or sorcery that maybe you didn't want out yet, but that's the way you play it. Overall, I think this is good, so that's why I put it green, but I can understand that there might be some debates on that. We have lose X amount of life, X being the amount of creatures you control. So hey, if you're playing a non-creatures based deck, you might only lose 1 life, you might only lose 2 life, but if you're playing a tokens deck, and I have 20 squirrel tokens, you're going to lose a lot of life. We have scry 1, draw a card. We have pay X life and draw 1/3 of those cards rounded down. So if I paid 3 life, I get to draw 1 card face down. I can draw an extra card. I could also pay 12 life, and then I get 4. So you can hurt yourself as much as you want. We also have all the tokens under the sun. So number 10 was create a clue token, but we also have create a food, create a treasure, create a map, I think. So any type of tokens you can think of, we have that in there. 11's funny because it's a random opponent gains control of your turn. So most of the time they'll just be like, oh, your turn ends. But sometimes they'll like look at your hand and be like, oh, this is a removal spell. Let me just play it now, and then it kills it. So that one can go crazy, and we've had that one go crazy before. I also put a couple of voting things. I like the idea of voting, not when it's card-based, but when it's wild magic-based. So number 13 is opponents vote a card in your hand unrevealed, and then that card enters the battlefield without paying its mana cost. That one's because, yet again, you might get an instant, you might get a sorcery that doesn't really help you in the moment because that's what they choose, or they could put out your biggest creature that costs the most, and whoops, that was bad. I have like number 14, each opponent explores. So I have a lot of stuff where the bad is either it hurts you directly or everybody else benefits from it. So in this case, everybody else gets to explore and I can't. Granted, I don't think one explore for each person is that groundbreaking, like much of a deal breaker. There are a couple things in here that I'm just like, whoa, if you roll this a couple times a game, you're going to have a problem. And then there's other times where the bad is just like, oh, I lose 2 life. Oh, I lose 4 life. That's fine. I have to discard a card. Oh, whoa, okay. Yet again, 15's removal. 16. We have 2 of these. I don't know where the other one is, but it's go to mtgrandom.com and play that card without paying its mana cost. So that's literally just a website where, if it would like to load, you get a random card. And then you don't have to pay its mana cost, so if it's outside of your colors, that's fine. But you get a free creature, like, it could be anything. We still don't know, which is cool. We got a lot of stuff that loses life or deals damage to specific creatures. Like 19 is deal 1 damage to each target creature opponent's control. So if they have a bunch of 1/1s, you'll end up killing all the 1/1s. Or if they have a lot of like 4/1s, or it might just knock them down enough that you might be able to swing in them in your combat phase. That is the difference between doing it before your combat or after your combat. I feel like a lot of people tend to do it after, because there's a couple that are not fun. Number 24, we have increase your commander attacks by 1. I just think that's funny, because if somebody keeps on getting their commander sent back and then we increase the attacks through dice roll, that's to me that's funny. There's a couple orange ones that are, it hurts everyone. So there's destroy all tokens for number 26. We have play additional land, and that land can be from the graveyard. I just think land going into the graveyard is so sad because it's so easily done, because we're like, oh, we have 35 of them, just throw it into the graveyard, I can get another one. But then you really need it, so this can come in clutch, and it has come in clutch before. Tap all of your creatures. There's one that's later on that's like your turn ends. We also have different game mechanics that come in and leave. So like 31 is plane chase mechanic begins and ends. So if somebody has the plane chase cards, you can do that. There's several applications. I forgot. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm actually going to look. Not a sponsor, obviously, but the app LifeTap. LifeTap has all the arch enemy cards and all the plane chase cards that ever existed on the app. So you can start plane chase even if you don't own any of the cards, which I think is really cool. So we have stuff like plane chase and like taking the initiative, becoming the monarch. No City's Blessing. We didn't cheat out City's Blessing because I don't feel like there's enough out there where people are like gunning for it to put it in there. Each opponent may put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. Yet again, that's very similar to exploring, but now you're confined to only putting a +1/+1. 34. 34 is cool because it's based off of a card. It's based off of show and tell. So each player puts down a creature, enchantment, or artifact from their hand onto the battlefield. So there's a couple cards that are just like, there's a couple dice rolls that could mimic another card. I don't think I have one that's like a demonic tutor where it's like you can just take out any card in your deck. I don't remember if I did something like that. That's the thing. Like when you have 100, you really don't remember how many of each you do or what exactly you do. So every time you play this game, it feels new. We have stuff like the ring tempts you. I know that's not common, and especially if you only get that once per dice roll, like you might play a whole game and you only land on the ring tempts you once, which just makes a creature a legendary creature. Which, hey, if you're playing a legendary creatures deck or you're doing something where it's like, oh, you can cast legendary creatures from the top of your library for free, I mean, maybe you can get something to work with you. Very similar to the MTG random for a card. We also have it strictly for planeswalkers. This was actually not my idea. This was one of my friend's ideas, but I think it's funny, yet again. Of course, we're not going to have these cards on hand. So you either use an index card, you can use a post-it note, or you can use the dry erase tokens. Each player may search for a basic land and put it onto the battlefield, so everybody benefits from it. So there's truly there's so much more. I just want to go to the end really quick. 97 is put your commander in your hand. You can roll that pretty nicely. So say somebody plays a Cyclonic Rift or a board wipe, or something that throws everything to your graveyard. I don't think Cyclonic Rift throws things into your graveyard. I might get myself blamed for that. But it's just something that you can put your commander back in your hand, so you don't have to pay that commander tax, which is nice. 99 is destroy all lands. We have gotten this before. It right at the end of the game too, so it really messed everything up. So Wild Magic is fun because it can make the game go really fast, or it can make the game take forever, literally forever. And then number 100, which is probably the best, is return all permanents from your graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So late game, you got 16 cards in your graveyard. They're all creatures. They're all back onto the battlefield. So somebody playing a tokens deck might not benefit from this as much, but somebody who's playing like a creature, like a specific type of creature, maybe a tribal deck, that could go crazy. So, like I said, this will be linked in the description, so you can take a look at it. You can make a copy of it. You can tweak it. You can share it. You can do whatever you want. This is just something that I thought of that I thought was pretty cool. Apparently, I'm not the first person who thought of this, which, you know what, that's not surprising. I know Star City Games, who sells like all the different TCG products, and is a store. They have, I can't find it, so I'm not linking it. But they have something where it's like, I think it's 200 or maybe even 1,000. And a lot of them are based on different types of cards. So if you can find that, feel free to comment that down, or enjoy that if you go searching for it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I will catch you all next time.